Have you ever wondered what secrets old, abandoned mansions might hide? What if you discovered a place so filled with terror that no one dared to enter it for years? This is the true story of the horror mansion in a small American town where unspeakable horrors await anyone brave enough to step inside. In the quiet town of Oakwood, nestled in the heart of America, there stood a mansion on the outskirts that everyone avoided. Known simply as the Horror Mansion, it had a dark and twisted history that the townspeople whispered about but rarely discussed openly. The mansion had been abandoned for decades, and it was said that anyone who entered never came out the same. Some never came out at all. One summer, a group of friends decided to investigate the rumors. Sarah, Mike, Emily, and Jake had always been thrill seekers, and the legend of the Horror Mansion was too tempting to resist. Armed with flashlights, a camera, and a sense of adventure, they set out to uncover the truth. The sun was setting as the group approached the mansion. An eerie silence enveloped them, broken only by the distant calls of crows. The once grand entrance was now overgrown with weeds, and the windows were shattered, resembling dark, empty eyes. Sarah, the bravest of the group, pushed open the creaking door, and they stepped inside. The air inside was thick with dust and an unexplainable chill. Every footstep echoed ominously through the empty halls. The mansion's interior was a labyrinth of decaying rooms and darkened corridors, each more foreboding than the last. The friends decided to split up to cover more ground, a decision they would soon regret. Sarah and Mike headed upstairs, their flashlights barely piercing the darkness. They entered an old, decrepit bedroom with a massive, dusty mirror. As Sarah wiped away the grime, she saw not just her reflection, but a shadowy figure standing behind her. She turned quickly, but no one was there. Her heart raced as she called out to Mike, but he was nowhere to be found. Meanwhile, Emily and Jake discovered a hidden staircase leading to the basement. As they descended, the air grew colder and an overwhelming sense of dread washed over them. They found themselves in a room filled with old, decaying furniture and strange symbols painted on the walls. Suddenly, the door slammed shut behind them, and the room was plunged into darkness. The basement was a maze of narrow passages and low ceilings. Emily and Jake stumbled upon what appeared to be a ritual chamber, with an altar in the center and more of the strange symbols surrounding it. The air was thick with a foul, musty smell. They tried to find a way out, but the room seemed to be shifting and changing around them. The symbols on the walls began to glow with an eerie green light, and they heard footsteps coming closer. Emily screamed as a cold hand touched her shoulder, but when she turned, no one was there. Back upstairs, Sarah's flashlight flickered and went out. In the pitch black, she heard whispers, soft at first, then growing louder and more insistent. Desperately, she fumbled for her phone to use its light. When she finally managed to turn it on, she saw Mike standing in the doorway, his eyes wide with terror. Before she could speak, he pointed behind her. She turned to see the shadowy figure from the mirror, now clearly visible and moving towards her. Panicking, Sarah and Mike fled to the attic. There they stumbled upon an old trunk filled with dusty journals and photographs. They discovered that the mansion had once belonged to a family deeply involved in occult practices. The spirits of those who had died in the house were trapped, angry, and seeking revenge on anyone who disturbed their resting place. As the night wore on, the friends' fear turned to panic. The mansion seemed to come alive, with walls closing in, floors collapsing, and ghostly apparitions appearing everywhere. They realized they had to get out, but the mansion had other plans. Emily and Jake, still trapped in the basement, found an old rusted key hidden inside a cracked floorboard. It seemed to fit the lock on the door, but as they turned it, the walls began to bleed a dark, viscous liquid. The green symbols glowed brighter, and the footsteps grew louder. Jake felt something brush past him, whispering in his ear, but when he turned, he saw only darkness. Upstairs, Sarah and Mike were chased through the halls by the shadowy figure. They stumbled upon a hidden room behind a bookcase, filled with strange artifacts and more journals. One journal detailed the family's descent into madness, driven by their attempts to communicate with the dead. The rituals they performed had backfired, trapping their souls in the mansion and cursing anyone who dared to enter. In a final, desperate attempt to escape, the friends reunited in the grand hall. The mansion was now a cacophony of sounds and sights. Ghostly figures floated through the air, doors slammed shut, and the temperature dropped dramatically. Just as they thought they were free, the doors to the mansion slammed shut with a thunderous bang. The ghostly figure, now accompanied by several others, advanced on them. The friends huddled together, their screams echoing through the mansion. In their final moments of terror, they could hear the spirits whispering about the eternal punishment they would face for disturbing the peace of the house. By morning, the townspeople found the mansion silent once more. The friends were discovered, huddled in a corner, their hair white with fright and their eyes wide with terror. They were alive, but forever changed. None of them could speak of what they had experienced without breaking into tears. The horror mansion was sealed off, declared too dangerous for anyone to enter, but the legend lived on, a chilling reminder of the horrors that lurk just beyond the edge of our understanding. In the weeks that followed, the friends tried to return to their normal lives, but the events of that night haunted them. Sarah suffered from constant nightmares, seeing the shadowy figure in every dark corner. Mike withdrew from everyone, barely speaking, consumed by a fear he couldn't explain. Emily and Jake, unable to cope with what they had experienced, sought help from psychologists, but nothing could erase the memories. The townspeople of Oakwood, having heard the friends' harrowing tale, became even more wary of the mansion. It was fenced off, and no trespassing signs were posted all around. But the mansion's eerie allure remained. Occasionally, a curious thrill-seeker would venture too close, only to be scared off by strange noises and sudden chills. Despite their trauma, the friends felt a strange compulsion to understand what had happened to them. They started researching the mansion's history more deeply. They discovered that the original owners had been part of a secret society obsessed with immortality. Their rituals had involved not just communication with the dead, but attempts to trap and harness souls for their own dark purposes. The more they learned, the more they realized that the spirits were not just angry, they were tormented. The mansion was a prison for their souls, and anyone who entered became part of their eternal nightmare. Driven by a need for closure, the friends decided to return to the mansion one last time. Despite their fear, they hoped to find a way to release the trapped spirits and end the curse. Armed with new knowledge and tools for protection, they approached the mansion at dusk. The atmosphere was even more oppressive than before. The mansion seemed to recognize them, the air thick with anticipation. As they stepped inside, they felt an overwhelming sense of being watched. They made their way to the attic, where they had found the journals. Following the instructions from the writings, they set up a ritual to release the spirits. As they chanted the ancient words, the mansion shook violently. The ghostly figures appeared, their faces twisted in agony and desperation. The ritual was long and arduous. The friends felt their strength waning as the spirit's presence grew stronger. But finally, with a blinding flash of light and a deafening roar, the spirits were freed. The mansion fell silent, and the oppressive air lifted. Exhausted and relieved, the friends left the mansion, hoping never to return. The horror mansion stood empty and quiet, its dark legacy finally at an end. This is a true story, a terrifying chapter in the history of a small American town. The horror mansion stands as a silent sentinel, a warning to those who dare to uncover its secrets. Would you have the courage to step inside? Remember, some doors are best left unopened. What would you do if you found yourself in a haunted mansion? Do you believe in the supernatural, or do you think there's a logical explanation for everything? If you enjoyed this story, please like, share, and subscribe for more true tales of terror, and let us know in the comments if you would dare to enter the horror mansion. Until next time, stay safe and keep your doors locked.